He's familiar with details of the policy because it's been a long time in coming. Mr. Langovan from the DMK, I'm sure he has a lot to say about the language formula. Rakesh Sinha of the BJP is a member of the Rajya Sabha. Namaste. And all of them will give us their perspective on what they think the national education policy stands for, the kind of new Indian it will create, and of course, the biggest challenge, the 12 million young people who get into the workforce every year. How will it prepare them for the future? So, hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for being with us. I'd like to start with you, Rakesh ji. Please tell me what you think are the hits and misses of the national education policy.
You know, the education policy is entirely different from the previous policies. We have 7 policy intervention by the Indian state. And despite that, we could not achieve the 100% literacy. Least to say about the national level, uh, tribal literacy is less than almost 59%, and the rural literacy is less than 64%. So what I want to say that this, all the policies were framed with a elitist mindset by the elites without soliciting the wisdom of the common people. For the first time in the history of India, the policy has been framed and formulated with the larger participation of the people. It is unimaginable that 250,000 suggestions came, and the draft policy remained on the public domain for more than 6 months. And it reached to almost 2.5 lakh people and institutions. Therefore, I consider that this policy embodies many things which were not in the previous policies. What 3 important things I want to point out about this policy?
Right.
That we Indians are lagging in the higher education. Therefore, our students prefer to go outside the country for social science, particularly for social science, Harvard University, Oxford University. I can't say that we would compete in a day, but for the first time, the emphasis is on higher education and the research. So National Research Foundation has been established, and this research foundation would monitor and develop and evolve the process of research in India. We know we have 24,000 PhDs in this country, which is 4th position. But the population has also increased. Previously, the number of PhD were lesser. So what I want to say that this policy had two in it. One, that maximizing the education and reaching to the common people. That, so it is bringing out the education from the exile of the colonial language, colonial thinking, and a colonial structure. One. Second, that's why that mother tongue education is very, very important. It would have a very long-term impact on the nation's life. Second one thing I want to say, that this policy is ending the stagnation in the field of education. So once you are entering in the field of education, you feel that you have to take a degree, then you have to come back. Here there's a kind of flexibility. You have an exit. Again, you can enter. So, and you are entering in the education, not only for degree, but with these skills. Therefore, this education policy, if implemented properly and will monitor, will yield many constructive results for the nation.
I agree. And I think one of the most interesting things you said is if implemented properly, because always, as we know, the devil lies in the details and in the implementation, especially the 6% of GDP, which India has been saying for a long time we should have ideally, but we've been unable to achieve that. I'll come to that later, Sinaji, but may I ask Mr. Raju to step in and give us his first thoughts?
Sure. Good evening, Rakesh ji. Good evening, Elangovan ji, Kaveri, and the others. It's a pleasure to be part of this discussion.
Thank you.
And as you all know, education is a continuum, and I think we are all here to debate the future of the country. And we are here to ensure that the future of education is in safe hands. So at the outset, I would like to compliment Dr. Kasturi Rangan and all the eminent people who have worked on, coming out with this draft policy, which has been recently adopted. But contrary to what Rakesh ji has said, there are accusations by a large sections of people and academia that not enough consultation has taken place. And we feel enough consultation should have taken place. And also at the same time, it should have gone to Parliament, to the concerned committees before it's adopted by the cabinet. Now, having said that, the other factor is the timing of the adoption of the policy. We are going through a crisis. We don't know when the pandemic is likely to end. It has it has affected everybody's lives, including the students and the future of education. So at such times, when we are going through this crisis, when we have, a confrontation with China on our borders, it is not the ideal time to be able to, release this policy. And I think the timing has been wrong, in our view. And having said that, and after complimenting what, the good work done by the committee, I would like to say a few things. Like Rakesh ji has said, although the Kothari Commission in 1968 envisaged that we should be spending 6% of the GDP on education, somehow we have not been able to do that.
Right.
And, it has remained largely around 4%. And actually, if you look at the track record of the current government in the last 6 years, it's fell to a little over 3%.
Right.
So, come what may, we have not dedicated enough resources. And I think that is important, to be able to dedicate enough resources. Secondly, like the committee itself has commented in the last page, the whole challenge is in the implementation.
Yes.
And it is not the prerogative or the responsibility of the central government alone.
Right.
It has to be the joint responsibility of all the stakeholders, the states, then all those who are involved with education, the regulatory bodies, the accreditation bodies, everybody, the teachers, education institutions, everybody has to be involved in ensuring that the policy, whatever is framed by the policies, well implemented. Now, having said these things, I would like to again differ on one or two issues with Rakesh ji. See, like I said, it's a education. You can't say that education was neglected in the past, or was elitist in the past, or neglected a culture. I think there's been an equal emphasis depending on the activeness of the particular state or a particular region or a particular educational board. But of late, if you look at it, the aspiration of the average mother has been to educate the child in English. So you can't wish it away. They know that is the language of opportunity. While I agree with the recommendation that, teaching in the mother tongue in the initial years does help the comprehend better, absorption better, and they will be able to take in the subject very well. So that's a good recommendation. I don't want to dispute that. But then I hope it doesn't become an impediment in the later years. Then the three things that I would like to comment on quickly is, one is this aspect of this, the focus on early childhood education. I think that's an excellent thing that the policy has isolated. But, the implementation is sketchy. You want to start off the early childhood, you want to sort of mix it with the Anganwadis.
Anganwadis, yeah.
The primary responsibility of the Anganwadis is nutrition, overall development of the child, and they are not trained to do this. Also, they mentioned that they will be training these people. That 6-month course will not be adequate. So I think we have to come up with a better plan for, making this foundation stronger. The idea is good that, you make the foundation very strong, the early childhood development. But then this is very, very sketchy and very vague. I think they have to debate this much more properly for its implementation. The other good point I liked is that you're bringing in vocational education from 6th standard onwards. I think that's a great measure. But then this has to again align with whatever is the National Skilling Mission's goals were, at the college level, at a higher institutional level, because there can't be a mismatch. What you teach in schools, if it doesn't grow up to what is taught later, then there'll be a mismatch. And, as far as skilling is concerned, the then government, Dr. Manmohan Singh's government, We did a great job of formulating the National Skill Development Mission, which unfortunately has not been implemented in its spirit. Again, we came up with the National Skills Qualification Framework, which was the first time we were recognizing existing skills and gave it an educational equivalent. This was done in 2013. So now, when we now start introducing this in schools, it's important to implement it very well. It's a good idea, but the implementation is very important. And there's no talk of the Right to Education Act that was enacted by us. That was very comprehensive in its implementation. Not only education, a well-rounded curriculum, the atmosphere in the schools, training of teachers, including differently abled children into the regular education.
Also the EWS and...
Yes, quite a lot of factors, and it was thought through, and adequate funds were established to give to states to show that the implementation is done in a proper manner. So that I don't find a mention of that, acknowledgement of that, and the extension of this, in the same spirit, if it is extended. See, that also envisaged, admitting, poorer students, economically poorer students in neighborhoods into elite schools.
Right.
So all those things were comprehensive. They could have tweaked with it. Now, as far as higher education is concerned, teacher education is concerned, I'm happy that the policy has recommended that the teachers are trained in a multidisciplinary environment. I'm happy with that, because all these institutions are there for teacher training, which are not adequate.
Right.
Now they should be trained in a multidisciplinary environment, and they've also tried to grade institutions into multidisciplinary institutions, that they should eventually grow into multidisciplinary institutions, which is a good noble objective. But don't tinker with existing institutions which are like IITs, IIMs, which are single disciplined, but they have become schools of excellence internationally. So let's not tinker with existing good models. Let's try to work on the other universities which need to be uplifted into multidisciplinary universities.
Right.
And the accreditation process is another thing. You see, again, it is a very important function, the accreditation, then, recognizing universities and eventually rewarding these things. We did take some good measures in the past, but again, those have not been acknowledged. Like, for example, the RUSA mission, we wanted to incentivize higher educational institutions which are doing well on educational parameters, and we wanted to give them additional funding. There, we also involved the higher educational councils of states, because you have universities, public universities in the states also.
Right.
So it's important that they come up too.
Right.
So that has not been acknowledged, and I feel the existing regulatory and statutory bodies like the UGC and the AICTE should have been strengthened first, and then grow them into their vision of the Higher Educational Council of India.
Right.
So that should have been the path. These are my observations.
I'll come back to Mr. Sinha later, and I'd ask him to respond to some of these points. We'll raise them with him. Mr. Elangovan, what are your initial thoughts about the national education policy?
See, Honorable Rakesh Sinha ji, Honorable friend Mr. Pallam Raju, Kaveri ji, we have expressed our stand with regard to national education policy. One is that we accept the language issue, that the mother tongue should be taught in every school. That way we have accepted, because we have a policy of two-language system in Tamil Nadu.
Right.
And way back, I have to differ on certain issues. Way back in 1952, in Tamil Nadu, in Madras Presidency at that time, they had introduced this when Rajaji was the Chief Minister here, he introduced this system of teaching skill development on what I can say. That was strongly opposed by the state,
right,
and he had to drop it. My worry is that instead of improvising on the syllabus and skilling the teachers, training the teachers for proper education, with the population, the poverty rate is higher in India. When we go for common exams in the 3rd standard, 5th standard or 8th standard, that will lead to increase in the dropout of students.
Right.
That is a great worry, because you train, you train the teachers to teach well to the students. If you have exams for students of 5th standard or 8th standard or 3rd standard, and considering the poverty rate of the country, the parents will immediately think of sending him to some job.
Right.
So dropout in school education will be more.
Right.
That is my worry.
Right.
That in that way, that will definitely affect the rate of educated children in the country. So that should be dropped. Secondly, there are the major thing is to improvise the syllabus, not the breaking of the years of school education, the college education, other things. The government should work out on improvising the syllabus in tune with the international universities. We need not have them here, but we can adopt the syllabus which are followed, syllabi which is followed by those countries. And we can teach our children, and we can even give a specialized training to the teachers on, particularly in subjects like science and mathematics. We can have a well-trained teachers to teach them. I think there are areas where teachers have failed to take students to the level of that is one problem which we are facing. So as was pointed out by Mr. Pallam Raju, the 6% out of GDP is a must. There should be more investment in education by the government of India. And we have some states excelling in education. My first worry is, amongst our states, there are certain states which have excellent form of education.
Right.
We can adopt that.
Yes.
We can adopt the system of education which is followed by some of the states which are excelling in education. We can take it to the other states so that they also have a good education. So without improvising the syllabus, without updating the syllabus, and without proper training of teachers, whatever system we follow will definitely fail. And this kind of having common exams in the school level in 5th or 8th will definitely lead to more of dropouts from the school's education. That is a dangerous thing for the country like us. We want everybody to be educated.
Yes.
And considering the poverty, and if somebody fail, the parent will not send them to school. You know how we had pulled students. We had to give noon meal scheme, midday meal, everything.
A very successful model. Which
Yes.
Tamil Nadu.
Yes. Because of the poverty, we have to bring students to schools and make them study, for which we had to spend a lot.
Right.
So that kind of thing should be there, and the exams in between, and not improvising the syllabus.
Right.
And language issue. Language is one more issue. 3 languages are very difficult for students to study. They must have 2 languages.
Right.
And the skill development from the school level is good, provided it is uniform to everybody.
Right.
That is one thing which I want to say.
Right. Provided it's a choice and not coercion.
Yes.
Right. Rakesh, may I ask you to briefly respond to some of these points, especially I think the point about 6% on GDP, which I think has troubled a lot of people. Where exactly will these resources come from? The point about the 3-language formula, some states, especially in the South, are very uncomfortable with that. And I think the Anganwadi issue is also a very valid issue. Unless those teachers are properly trained, early childhood education, which is actually the most critical, can be quite a disaster. So may I ask you to look at some of these points?
Yes, before coming to that,
yeah,
I'm happy that none of them has disagreed the fundamentals of the new education policy.
Yeah,
they have certain contestation and certain due to some ambiguities. when some things in policies, all things are not clear at the policy level. When they get implemented, because this is state subject, when a state has to implement that. Therefore, its modalities have to be prepared. Three things should be kept in the mind. How to judge? First, whether any education policy addresses to most marginalized people, those who constitute the, those either they are left out or constitute the maximum dropout. Second, whether it is a deterrent to brain drain. Developing countries like India has been victim of the brain drain. Our best talents go outside the country, whether technical education or non-technical education, post-education or during the education. Third thing is that whether it is creating an egalitarian atmosphere for the education. So these three things require enough funding. And I think the 6% target of the government of India, it is the responsibility of the government to have 6%. Once the government has said, you have to believe that. And government would manage the fund. How it would manage, it is up to the finance minister and the government of India to delineate all these things. But we should believe that if government promises, it would do that. Second important thing, that Anganwadi issue I'm addressing, this is a good experiment because you have seen the play schools are mushrooming all over the country. Different kind of, what kind of, you are giving, so what in India called sanskar. That sanskar means what kind of characteristics you are developing among the children. And this Anganwadi, it is a very important that once you are giving training, that training model should be decided, trainers should be decided. It is not that 6 months model would be essentially followed, and they must be up to the mark. They would be selected. All the Anganwadi workers will not be involved. Those who are qualitatively in the state of performing best to the children, they would be selected. So this issue is not a big issue. Whether it's a matter of quality, Palam Raju has rightly raised this issue, and that quality part would be addressed by the government, all the respective governments in the state. Third, one thing that is very important, we are lagging in the higher education as far as research is concerned, and our social science has been subjugated by the Eurocentric thoughts. We are considered, those researchers who go outside the country, when they give a critical analysis, they ask, no, kindly give your empirical study. For critical analysis, Europeans would do. So we are considered only just like ant, collecting the data, not the spider. They consider themselves a spider. So this education policy creates a happy blending between the ant and the spider. When you are focusing on the research, and that research not only in science, but also in social science. That is a very important thing that will deter the brain drain. Other thing about the university education, that this education policy is important because previous education policies were created the institution and prepared the students for the government jobs. The state sector is shrinking and the private sector is expanding. The global opportunities are maximum in the private sector. That is also true in the national opportunities. Therefore, this education policy creates such an environment and mindset that you are in the position to appropriate the opportunities you have before you. Therefore, the skill training is linked to it. Not only in the latter part, you will find that skill training is not only the theoretical. It might be linked to the private sector's requirement of the private sector, requirement of the time. What is in Sweden, there is a future commission, which plans for the future. So this education policy, without mentioning the future commission, have the ingredients that how it will improve the teachers, give opportunity to improvement in the teachers, also the students, that in and exit, again in, that is very important, that your education is lifetime job, or it depends on the circumstances, your own requirement, your own opportunity. So you are the master of your own education. This is the best part of the education policy, and I think we would be, if implemented properly, in the position to compete with most of the universities which are located outside country and considered the best universities in the world.
Rakesh, before I go on to the others, I want to raise two quick points with you. One is that the curriculum and the syllabus has not been detailed as yet. So there is a fear, as you know, among a lot of people that there could be vast changes in the syllabus, in the curriculum, which are not necessarily as inclusive as it was earlier. For instance, there was a lot of criticism of the cutting of the CBSE syllabus during this time, and the idea that it was politically motivated. It may not have been so, but that was one of the criticisms. And the second point I want to make is about the foreign universities, the 100 foreign universities that have been proposed. What is your consideration on that? So first on the syllabus and then on the foreign universities.
As far as social science is concerned,
yes,
we are giving education to our graduate students or post-graduation maximum on Western political thought.
Right.
You must know what is Western political thought, what is African political thought or Latin American political thought. But you just go through the syllabus. In last 10 years, many things have been added. I'm accepting the last 10 to 15 years. But we find that Indian political thought, Indian legacy, Indian cultural ethos, and the long journey of India as a civilization, which when the Western scholars accept that, they are missing from our education. So this education policy will try to create a syllabus, prepare a syllabus, which would be inclusive. It would not exclude anything. Recently, what has been done, it is an extraordinary situation.
Yes.
And the person who had done has not been guided or dictated by any government or any institution. He used his discretion. That discretion may be right or may be wrong. But here, there would be a consensus, and democratically, syllabus would be decided. This education policy, as Palaman Raju has raised the concern that more consultation,
yes.
The draft report was in public domain for 6 months, and the maximum people have given their suggestions. So it is a moral duty of every citizen to give his or her view on such policies. 2 quick points. First thing, that this education policy is also targeting the teachers' training. Just teachers feel stagnation during their career. If they are in college, they spend 20, 30 years in college, they retire as an associate professor.
Yes. You're familiar with that, Rakesh.
Yeah, retire as an associate professor. So this policy is a circulation of teachers.
Yeah.
Their transfer in the research institution, if you're interested in research, you can be in the part of research. So stagnation would be broken or be demolished. Second thing is that as far as training process is concerned, that was just like a traditional training process. All the B.Ed and M.Ed, you just find that is a traditional that became a ritual. And there are mushrooming private B.Ed schools. They are just like a business. They are just like a business. So education would be free from the clutches of the education mafia, which are operating outside the mainstream education phase.
Right.
So you must find the coaching institutes, private schools. A last point which I am going to address. No, the imperial language has exiled us for a long. And Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, or any Indian language, I consider all Indian language are equally important for the nation, are not threatened by Indian languages by Hindi, or Hindi is not threatened by Malayalam, Telugu, Tamil, or any Indian language. They are commonly threatened by English, domination of English. We are not against English. English is very important. It is an important means of communication all over the world. There are many opportunities which require knowledge of English.
Yeah.
But that does not mean that you are imposing English right from the birth of a child. So education in the mother tongue is considered most scientific. Students or the children grasp more in their mother tongue than other languages. So I think till 5th, they would get education in mother tongue, and that would be a radical transformation in the process of education.
But Rakesh, that can be quite a nightmare in terms of implementation, because the mother tongue of everyone in class may not necessarily be the same. That
No.
is one of the big issues.
No, it is not that. You know, our most of the states have been created on the basis of language.
Right.
If you go Tamil Nadu, you go Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, it would not be a problem. What is the problem with elite schools? My concern is that elite school like Doon school or Goenka school or certain schools, they won't get teachers who can teach mathematics or social sciences in Hindi, Hindi or Tamil or Telugu, because they have been groomed in imperial language.
Right.
They consider the English is the beginning and end English. So I think at a particular juncture, you have to reinitiate the process. How long? After 7 decades, we are not in the position to promote Indian language. One thing, Kaveri, I would point out, and nobody will disagree, that after 7 decades, you will find that in metropolitan city, particularly New Delhi and other metropolitan areas, only English-speaking people, whether in social science or English, dominate. Others also come. What was called by the imperial rulers vernacular language, which is Indian language,
which is regional, our language.
Elites of Indian languages are lagging, only due to the domination of English.
Right.
So we are not fighting against English, we are fighting against the hegemony of the English.
Right, right. Mr. Elangovan, can I bring you in here and discuss this point? When you talk about the mother instruction in mother tongue, you have no problem with that. You have a problem with the 3-language formula. Can you explain what the issue is with that?
So in 2006, we faced this problem when we were in government. Dr. Kalaignar was as chief minister. He worked out a method that the education will be in Tamil, but children from other languages who are residing in Tamil Nadu, like Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, or Hindi, whoever it is, Marathi, whoever it is, they will learn that language also in this school.
Right.
So, even though the system of education, the education will be taught in Tamil, these children will be allowed to learn their own mother tongue in the schools. And that was an arrangement made in 2006. So that was a good arrangement and everybody accepted. It was accepted by educationists in the state. So we also had worked out on that. We see, the thing is, it is not the question of, we stand against a particular language. It is not like that.
Right.
We are for all languages. Only thing is that we don't want any language to be imposed on us.
Right.
Imposing a language is different from accepting a language or learning a language.
Right.
Here, there are this Hindi Prachar Sabha is there and students are going and learning Hindi. Nobody is preventing them from doing that.
Right.
But we had a system. We had worked out on that also. And we had a language, mother tongue of the people living in Chennai to have a text. The government will formulate the syllabus and teachers will be trained on that language and they will be taught that language.
Right.
So that was the system which we had followed.
Right. Mr. Elangovan, can I also ask you what you think of the private university, foreign universities coming to India? What do you think of that idea?
That we had opposed. I think during between 2009 and Mr. Pallam Raju also will know.
Yeah.
Between 2009-14, there was a thinking of introducing.
Yes.
Yeah. We had opposed that.
Right.
Because we have the skills and our people are going the world over to work in various industries elsewhere.
Right.
And the Indians have a good market, employment, labor employment, they are good in the employment market and everywhere our students, our IITians, our IIM students are going there and working.
Right.
So why should, when we have the skills, why should we bring in foreign universities? We can adopt the syllabus.
Right.
Instead of bringing them, and they will go and join those universities and those universities will make money.
Right. I'll come to that point with Mr. Sinha later. Mr. Raju, what are your concerns about or any thoughts on the points Mr. Sinha raised.
Oh, I don't particularly recall what he said,
I
but I want to. But
about the syllabus, Mr. Raju. I was wondering what your thoughts are on
okay,
exactly how the syllabus will be framed.
okay. Now, regarding the implementation, again, it is since education is a concurrent subject, it is a joint responsibility of the central government and the states.
Yes.
So, I mean, a large part is in how effectively everything is implemented.
Right.
Now, as far as the syllabus is concerned, of course, there are concerns that it would be a extremely right-wing agenda syllabus and all that.
Yeah, that is the concern people have raised.
Which
Yes.
the NCERT is supposed to frame.
Yes.
So I think we should not frame the syllabus in such a way that we alienate parts of our own population, and we make certain parts of history irrelevant. Of course, I mean, as every Indian, we are all proud of our heritage, our culture, and our diversity. And I think measures should be taken to ensure that these are incorporated into the syllabus. But at the same time, it has to be a very forward-looking syllabus. The world is changing rapidly. There are current concerns of environment, ecology, and how technology is impacting our lives.
Yes.
And what are the new vocational skills one needs to adapt in the changing environment. So I think the focus should be more on that. And but it is going to be a lot of work, and it is going to be a lot of focused work. And there, I think they should actively involve all the stakeholders and be able to impart this in a good way. I'm glad that the teachers' education is in the multidisciplinary environment, which will also make them much better. And coming to languages, I think there should not be any rigidity about it. I mean, if you look at the current situation, in most states and in most government schools today, it is done in the local language.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they don't have English teachers.
Right.
It is done in the local language anyway. The learning goes on, and in the private schools, of course, most of the private schools, the medium of instruction is in English, and there is a lot of interest by parents to put the children in private schools and in English medium schools, because they see shortcomings in the government schools.
Right.
So I think we should address the imbalance in improving the environment in the schools and spending more money naturally, and not necessarily impose the mother tongue in the private schools. Leave the choice to them. Okay. And, again, I mean, a lot of my school's classmates in college and in higher education, people who had come up in the in the Telugu medium schools, I see them after they become professionals and all that, they express themselves so well in English. The important thing is whether it's not the language, but how effectively you communicate.
Exactly.
And in a world, in a global environment, I think it is important to express yourself coherently in English or any foreign language.
Right.
So I'm not undermining, our mother tongues, but I think we have to look at the languages of opportunity.
Yes.
That is my observation.
Right.
As far as research is concerned, research is a very, very important aspect which determines your standing, as a, international recognition of universities, your standing, the quality of work. So research is a very, very important aspect, and I'm glad that they've made the National Research Foundation. While the foundation is going to identify, what are the workable areas of research and accordingly fund them, you should give the autonomy to individual institutions to be able to raise their own research funds. Because it depends on the competency of the faculty and the institution in able to establish that confidence that research on this particular aspect will be done well.
Right.
If you look at our IITs, each IIT has a specialization.
Yes.
So, government or institutions will not hesitate to provide funding for research in that area. Now, how do we inculcate the environment of research? You can't shut it out. You can't say that, we will do it in isolation.
Right.
It has to be a global environment.
Right.
And sharing of knowledge. And one thing that the Commission has omitted is in acknowledging the national knowledge network that we created. It was, we connected all the research and academic institutions to the backbone, high-speed data network called the National Knowledge Network. So there's no acknowledgement of that good work, because only when you share, knowledge, what work is going on where, does research thrive.
Right.
And if you want me to comment on these foreign universities also,
I would, yes.
Yeah, we did try to bring in institutions. I don't see that as a threat. See, I mean, we are definitely proud of our own inherent knowledge. I don't think it is second to anything else. We have a long legacy of knowledge, beginning with Aryabhatta and, so many other scientists. But, we are in an era of sharing. We have to, sharing best practices also. So if a foreign university comes and sets up a practice, a campus here, I think initial years, what will happen is they will tend to hire some of the better brains into that by virtue of the brand name they enjoy, by property, better practices. Right. So I don't think that should deter us. Eventually, we will learn from them.
Yeah.
Okay, and we will adopt best practices. They will learn from us. And why should we not invite knowledge if it is coming in via foreign institution?
And also save on foreign, the exchequer. I mean, we spend so many millions of dollars on sending our children abroad. We could perhaps prevent that.
Yeah. And what has been a brain drain in the past, like Rakeshji has mentioned about brain drain, it has been an issue of the past. But eventually it has all come back.
Yeah.
If you look at, let's say one area, semiconductor computer research, all the top companies in the world, they have their design centers out of India. Why? Because the quality of the knowledge is good. And again, people who have worked abroad have come back and are heading those.
Right.
So, it is a global world, we can't shut it out.
Right. Rakeshji, you must be quite happy to hear that there's more or less a lot of consensus on the national education policy, not the usual screaming and shouting that you hear about an important policy like this. But I'd also like to raise some of these points that Mr. Raju made about acknowledging the reforms that have gone before. Truly, we really don't know what is the status of the right to education. We don't know what is the status of the National Knowledge Network. These are significant reforms that the previous government made. And they made a big difference to this education sector. But somehow there's a sort of silence on this. Would you like to talk about that?
No, this education policy is a progressive evolution.
Right.
When we say progressive in evolution, then all the good things which have been formulated and implemented are inherent in this education policy. Right to education. This is a fundamental right of every child, and no government can think even to dilute this. So this concern is, I think, unfounded. But one of the concerns which has been raised by a particular section of academicians regarding syllabus.
Yes.
I was in a function in North India.
Right.
And I asked the students about Thiruvalluvar, Rani Chennamma, Rani Gadenu. Not a single hand was raised. Such a exclusion of the great people who were the commoners and became great due to their own contribution in the Indian knowledge tradition. So this education policy is reviving and resurrecting the Indian knowledge tradition. And I'm giving another example. I was talking to an IIT student and I was lecturing him about Jayaprakash Narayan, Ram Manohar Lohia and emergency. And after 15 minutes, I asked, "What do you understand? What did I say?" Said, "I don't know what was emergency." It's not a question of good and bad. In the modern Indian history, after post-independent India, if syllabus does not include the chapter on the emergency, if the chapter does not include the dynamic political system of the country and the party system in the country, then it is not going to yield great things among the social science sector. That's why when foreigners come as a scholar, or our students go as a scholar outside the country, they become profound in our own knowledge system. So this is going to revive that Indian knowledge system. One more point, which is a matter of concern, that how to implement. You know, when there is a mission to create 100% employment, this education system is not only intended to create 100% literacy, but also 100% employment. And we have to change the mindset that the job means public sector job.
Right.
Job means self-reliance, that you are confident of your skill and you are soliciting the help of others, or you are interacting and negotiating with the economic opportunities. So we have to create such situation. You just find the situation in Gujarat. People are groomed like that. When they get graduate degree, they go for self-employment.
Right.
But you go for Bihar, all the people rush for these government jobs. There's no opportunity and no mindset. UPSC is the finest job for them. So this mindset, that's why I say the climate for education should be changed. Last 7 interventions could not change the climate because you have not solicited the cooperation of the common people in formulating the education policy. Now, this has been in public domain before the final draft, and now it is at implementation stage. Still, it is in the public domain that there is no final word. If there are certain suggestions, critical suggestions, government is ready to accept that. If you are giving certain suggestions about the implementation part in modality, that would be accommodated. I am happy that the DMK, Congress, all the parties have objection only on some technical issues, the timing.
Most unusual for your party, isn't it?
And even the 3 education policy is not being opposed, because this is the first education policy which is strengthening the dying Indian languages. You go any metropolitan city of any state, whether it is Tamil Nadu or Telangana or Maharashtra, you will not find Marathi children speaking Marathi. There's a problem with the parents that their children don't know Marathi. They don't know Tamil. And most of our leaders across the political parties who have their own educational institution, they profess in public Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Hindi. But in their own educational institutions, it is English which is a language of communication. Therefore,
that we have seen with a lot of political leaders as well, even with their own families. One quick last point from all of you, please, gentlemen, and I'd like to start with Mr. Elangovan. Do you feel that there were certain things that Tamil Nadu's education system is renowned for that perhaps could have been included in the education policy, or any innovation that you know of which would have made for something that was a little more well-rounded?
See, I cannot specifically point out 1 or 2 things because there are other states also which
have a lot of innovation. Yeah.
Yeah. But the dropout rate.
Yeah.
And the children going to higher education, college education are much more in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu stands holds number 1 position in that. So that is the one thing which has helped the people of Tamil Nadu, students of Tamil Nadu. Right. Otherwise, the system as of now, there are some states which perform very good in education.
Right.
Maybe the dropout is because of other factors, economic factors. We have, our factors are economic factors which we overcame by providing midday meals and other things.
Right.
Maybe that is the reason. Otherwise, I personally feel that education in mother tongue is going to help children in the initial stages. After that, they can train their brain for further education. So that is one good thing which we want to be followed here. And history, not what I can say is not theology or other. Yes, history should be taught.
Right. Wonderful. Mr. Raju?
Yeah. Final comments?
Yes, final comments.
Final comments. See, again, I want to caution about the implementation,
Yes.
The devil is in the details eventually. And when I read through the whole policy, I felt that there were areas where they made it a little more complex, especially when it related to school education.
Yeah.
And first of all, there's a shortage of teachers. Leave aside quality, there's shortage of teachers. So, with their kind of comprehension and, comprehensive ability, I don't know how much, what sort of a qualitative effort we can do this. I'm hopeful. Then again, the policy also talks about, academic autonomy and things like that. But the track record of the current government in the last 6 years doesn't speak of that. And, established norms, what has happened in Hyderabad University, what has happened in Delhi University. I remember, after a lot of consultation, we introduced the 4-year degree at that time in Delhi University.
In Delhi University, and it was one of the first things to be brought down by this government.
Yes, and in fact, my own Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, expressed his apprehension, from the feedback he got. I said, no, this is what the Vice Chancellor believes in it. This is what the UGC chairman believes in it. So, after consulting everybody, I did agree. But then that was the first thing that was struck down as soon as the current government came. So I feel, when it comes to actual implementation, and I remember how I used to run around both Mrs. Sushma Swaraj, who was a leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, and Mr. Arun Jaitley, who was a leader of opposition in Rajya Sabha, to allow me to put the bills. I say, this is the national interest. You take the credit, but they would resist. Right. So now that they're in power, I know we will not resist anything that's good for the country. I hope that the BJP will realize that.
So, Mr. Sinha, see, the Congress is being so gracious to you. Well, I hope you will not let them down again.
No, in fact, as for Delhi University, the 4 years was introduced.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people who opposed that.
Yes.
The reason is that you can't create an island in a country. Here we have implementing this as an all India basis. If you're implementing in one university, they're kind of an anarchy. You can't, the students who are getting education in Delhi University, those who are getting in JNU, both have incompatibility in job, in education, in future. Therefore, it was opposed. On principle ground, it was not opposed. That is very important, that timing and the way of implementation. Second thing that, this education policy combines values and vocations. Kothari Commission has always pleaded for the value-based education.
Right.
But somehow we could not materialize it in schools and colleges. That became a kind of syllabus. Value-based education became a syllabus. It is not the syllabus. It is a kind of characteristics you are infusing among the children to become a good citizen. And I agree with that. We will teach history, not mythology.
And not theology, not
theology. That because we believe in pluralism, and autonomy of the institutions are very important. If you are giving autonomy to educational institutions, they would be in the position to be self-reliant. They have to also manage some capital or some fund. So it is a kind of imposing responsibility to them. A section of teaching community, a section of students also take higher education, just take for the granted, just for the degree. So it should not be a degree distributing institution. It should be value and vocation delivering institution. That is the core of this education policy. And I hope that after 5 to 6 years, our students won't go foreign. And we are bringing the foreign universities, 100 institutions, with our own conditions. The condition of syllabus, conditions of fee structure, condition of salary of the teacher. You cannot create discriminatory system within the country.
Right.
So some people criticize it as a regulatory system, not regulatory system. To achieve our constitutional goal of egalitarian society, we require that whether private universities, public universities, or foreign universities, they must follow certain norms which lead us towards the idealism which has been envisaged in our constitution.
Thank you very much. It's nice to hear of the constitution from the BJP. And thank you, Mr. Raju. Thank you, Mr. Elangovan. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Very enlightening discussion. I learned a lot, and I think so did our viewers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rakesh ji. Thank you, Elangovan.
Thank you, sir.